Headquarters of the Chen family. From one of the offices, shouts of incomprehension could be heard over the dismissal of one of the employees. Lin Chu was the main character. He did not understand the reason for his dismissal and said that he had not even touched the money. He had been working overtime for 3 consecutive months and had just won the lottery for which he had been promised a promotion. Jingjin only laughed maliciously because Lin himself had signed the transfer, and he could not contest it in any way. The hero became furious because he had simply been deceived with the wrong documents that had been given to him. Because of this, the boss kept all the money. The man mocked him, saying that it made no sense to ruin an already ruined reputation even further. The main character could not accept such betrayal, and the boss ordered him to stay away. "How irritating you are," said Jin Yin with an evil smile. Gathering his strength, he threw Lin against the farthest wall of the office so hard that pieces of concrete flew from it. The boss declared that he was using the power of hate, which only the highest members of society like him were able to use. But then Jin's excitement turned to confusion. Because Lin was still able to move, Lin replied that he should just wait, because he would regret all his actions. He shouted that soon he would become a member of the Long Chen family and would become the richest man in the world when the time came. He cried out that he would buy the entire company and before anything else fire him from there. The bell rang, indicating that someone had arrived by elevator. A female voice told them there was no need to wait that long. Immediately a kind of commotion began, and meanwhile a girl stepped out of the elevator. The guards were shocked by what they saw before them. Moreover, it was surprising for all of them to see this girl personally standing there. She turned to the boss and said that he could let Lin go that very second. This girl was the young lady Chen Mo, daughter of the richest man in the Long Chen family and Lin Chu's ex-girlfriend. Everyone present began whispering about how incredible she was, but only Lin did not understand what she was doing there. Jean ran around her excitedly and asked why she had not warned him about her arrival. The girl cursed him threateningly, telling him to leave as quickly as possible. The boss could not understand why Chen Mo was speaking to him so rudely and was upset by her behavior. Chen Mo stated firmly that the man had defamed the honor of the future son-in-law of the Chen family, who was her future fiancé. She leaned on Lian, who could not understand anything about what was happening or what she was saying. Chen Mo declared that their last breakup had been a mistake and that they could arrange a marriage whenever Lin wished. The man was still completely confused, and asked if she still loved him. The answer was negative, but the girl added that she wanted his body. It was time for their wedding night. Lin sat on the bed and thought about how he had been fired from his job just last week, and today he had become the son-in-law of the Chen family. Moreover, the couple had not seen each other for 3 years, and suddenly Chen Mo reappeared in his life. He was haunted by her words that she wanted his body. The door opened, and the beautiful Chen Mo entered the room wearing a wedding dress of incredible beauty. Lin thought that in the 3 years he had not seen her, she had become even more beautiful. He began making excuses, telling Chen Mo that he would always love only her and would take care of her with all his strength. The girl did not listen to him. She told him to close his eyes because she had a surprise. Lina happily obeyed, blushing with a little embarrassment. He was sure that Chen Mo wanted to kiss him. The girl first reached out her hand to him, but it was only a distraction. Then suddenly she pulled away and shouted for Lin to take the money. And now she ran away with that money. The man could no longer understand anything that was happening. He was in shock. They were about to get married. What was going on? Chen Mo replied that it had all been just a show and ordered him not to come near her. As compensation, she offered him 100,000 for a month of accommodation. Lin shouted that he did not need money. What he needed were answers. He wanted to know why she had come back into his life. The girl seemed to use some kind of magic, and Lin's body was completely frozen, either in ice or in fire. Chen Mo grew angry and yelled at him to stop pretending. In this life, what she hated most were men who betrayed. Lin lay on the floor, not understanding what she was talking about because he had never betrayed her. He knew that none of this was simple, especially the marriage, which was what he truly wanted. But what the man really wanted to know was why she had broken up with him the first time in the past, since he had done nothing wrong. Lin Chu's apartment. The young man returned home completely confused about everything that had happened and wanted to go to bed quickly, but there were countless thoughts in his head that gave him no peace. But when he entered the room, Leon saw a blonde girl sitting on the sofa in his apartment. He did not understand who this girl was. She was a complete stranger to him. She started the conversation by saying that she loved him madly and was very happy to have finally found him. Len became furious, asking who she was and how she had entered his apartment. He only wanted to rest after everything that had happened to him. The girl claimed she had been his lover in a past life and had now come to repay her debt. Lin could not understand what kind of lover she meant or what role she had played in his past life. He shouted, demanding to know what she wanted. His nerves were already on edge. It seemed as though he might strike the girl, although he had never done such a thing in his life. To him she seemed completely insane because he could not make sense of anything she was saying. The girl did not stop talking or asking questions. She asked if they were not supposed to get married that very day and when their wedding night would be. Lin began to realize that something was very wrong. He rushed toward the door to escape and be alone, but it slammed shut in front of him. Somehow the girl had reached the door faster than he had. She begged him not to rush and explained that, in their past lives, they had often practiced dual cultivation. What kind of dual cultivation? What was this crazy woman talking about? The confusion in Lin's mind grew stronger and stronger, but the girl gave him no time to think. She suddenly grabbed Lin firmly by the neck and kissed him on the lips. At that moment he felt a strange surge of energy. It was as if a stream of water poured into his body. Everything around him became clear. It was as though something unfamiliar was awakening inside him. Lin finally believed that he had either gone mad or that he was already dead. He thought of countless possibilities. He felt weightless, as if in zero gravity, yet at the same time he was frozen in a kiss with a stranger. Perhaps he was in heaven. Lin had no idea what kind of place surrounded him or where he was. It felt as though in less than a second his entire body would explode into thousands of tiny particles. Doctor, lawyer, writer, artist, memory download. The memory of every person is a unique collection of knowledge. Hacker, scientist, magician, memory storage, memory uploading. 100, 300, 500, 500, 500. 1,999. Len now possessed the memories of all these people. He simply could not believe that he had access to the knowledge of so many lives and suddenly knew everything about everything. A month later the funeral of Lincho was held, but strange sounds and events began to occur. The ground shook. Everyone present was shocked. How could a dead man rise from a coffin that had only just been sealed with its lid? Lin stood up and declared, "Father is in the building." The maid was horrified, as were all the others, but she could not hold back her words and screamed that he was a zombie. However, a gray-haired, bearded man ordered her to be silent. It was Chenmo's father. He immediately approached the newly resurrected Lin and said joyfully that he had not been sure whether the young man would truly return to normal. But Lin did not want anyone to know that his soul had left his body and wandered through the memories of thousands of people. The boy asked to be taken to bed and the man instantly gave the order, calling him son-in-law. The man believed that Lin truly possessed the legendary power of resurrection and was overjoyed by the outcome. Behind him stood the young Chenmo, who sorrowfully said that she had never expected her marriage to be nothing more than another profitable deal for her father. After waking, the young man sat at the table waiting for dinner. With the memories of so many people, he began to view everything from a completely different perspective. Now he could instantly receive information about anything and even discover what others truly thought about him. An elite wedding portrait worth 30 million, a wooden vase worth 38 million, a jade dragon over 3,500 years old. A rough male voice shouted for the maid to serve the young master. Two girls appeared at the doorway, one of them bringing dishes to Leon one after another. The maid explained that the food was meant to restore his strength and asked him to eat everything as quickly as possible. The hero began devouring the plates eagerly, one after the other without pause. The maid wondered to herself whether her mistress truly had such poor taste, and how she could marry someone like Linchu. The hero immediately fixed his gaze on her. This was Chenmo's maid. She was furious and believed that Lin was unworthy of her lady. Lin added aloud that he also did not understand why Chunmo had chosen him. The girl was shocked to realize that he had read her thoughts and suddenly felt uneasy in front of the young master. A gray-haired man entered the doorway along with an elder and ordered the girl not to stand there like a statue but to serve the guest. The girl obediently nodded and the man introduced his son-in-law to the elder. Meanwhile, Lin did not stop eating and drinking, and the maid wondered when he would finally be full. To this he replied once again that he had not eaten for 2 whole months. Smiling, he even suggested that the maid feed him herself. The girl was embarrassed but also very angry. Still, she had no choice but to agree with the hero. Lin was not behaving very well and failed to notice the elder standing behind him, watching everything. Suddenly the elder grabbed Lin's hand and squeezed it with superhuman strength. The elder could not understand how Lin's aura could be so frightening. Lin gave the elder a harsh glare, but the old man immediately apologized for his roughness. The elder went straight to the master of the house to report something and asked if the boy had experienced any problems on his wedding day. The man answered that Lin had been in a coma for an entire month. That was the only possible explanation. Lin became very curious about what the two were whispering. Thanks to his new abilities, he began listening in on their conversation. The elder explained that someone had infused an immense amount of spiritual energy into Lin's body, destroying his perfect compatibility with the Huigenin ability. The man grew concerned and asked if there was any way to fix it and whether this would affect their original plan. The elder replied that the boy had the potential to one day become a great cultivator, but with his current aura he would not be able to master even the most basic techniques, let alone advanced ones. Lin now understood what Chunmo had meant when she said she wanted his body. At that moment the man suddenly turned and shouted at Lin, demanding how he dared to eat his food. With a single motion he threw both Lin and the table aside, then immediately grabbed him by the collar and began shouting that Lin had shamelessly deceived him. The man squeezed Lin's throat tightly, making him choke, but Lin still managed to respond. He declared that he knew it was the man who had forced Chunmo to deceive him. Lin accused him of plotting this scheme in order to obtain the Huigenin ability. The man was shocked to see how Lin had discovered his plan, given his abilities. Lin laughed, saying that he had lost his potential on their wedding night, when he was no longer a virgin. The man grew furious and shouted that Lin Chu was talking nonsense, especially since everyone knew Chunmo had abandoned him that night. The Chen family has no need for trash like you, the man roared. Lin suspected that violence would soon be used against him, so he immediately announced that he would leave. The maid was pleased to hear this. Finally Lin would be gone, but he suddenly turned to her and asked where Chunmo was at that moment. Using hypnosis, Lin commanded her to bring his wife to him. The girl could not resist the hypnosis and obediently agreed to everything Lin said. After this, Lin turned to the man and demanded to know why he had forced Chunmo into marriage with him. All of it had been invented solely because of his hidden potential for dual cultivation. Lin was stunned to realize that the Huigenin ability was so important to the man that he would sacrifice his own daughter's happiness. Chunmo's father had been conducting research for many years but had still failed to reach even the most basic stage. And in this world, strength meant everything. He began explaining how he and the elder had traveled long journeys until they finally discovered Linchu's aura. Huigenin alone would not produce much effect when cultivated individually. However, with dual cultivation a person could reach the golden core stage in just a few days. If Chunmo had not done something foolish, they could have grown much stronger together on their wedding night. Lin stood there in confusion. He had no idea what kind of dual cultivation they were talking about, but he felt that something was definitely missing. Now that Lin was no longer useful to them, the man ordered him to be thrown out into the street and fed to the dogs. Lin shouted that he was still Chunmo's husband, and demanded that the man think of his daughter's feelings. The man ordered him to shut up and declared that he would find a new husband for his daughter. Lin asked for just 1 minute to ask a final question. He wanted to know if it had been the man who set him up with Chunmo. The man answered that he only learned of the betrayal at the hotel through his daughter's words. Lin could not understand what kind of betrayal was being spoken of or who could have framed him in such a way. Lin wanted to use his strength and began summoning a certain Wangda Dong. He called upon the strongest boxer in the world, feared by absolutely everyone, to lend him his power. Yet it seemed that due to the weakness of his body, these memories were useless. A moment later, Chen Mo rushed into the room at the maid's summons. Lan was immensely happy to see her. He was certain that she would not reject him and quickly freed himself from the guard's grip, but the girl looked at him and told him to stay away from her. The hero was left completely petrified by such rudeness. He had never expected this, but the man did not. The man calmed down and shouted for the guards to get rid of Lin immediately. The men in black could not oppose their master, but the girl grew irritated and told her father that even if Linchi was trash now, he was still her husband. The father replied that the family had no need for such trash and that he would soon find a new husband for Chinmo. The girl only answered that her father would simply be wasting time searching for a new partner for cultivation, and she suggested keeping Lin since he was no different from raising a dog. And sometimes men really were like dogs. Pulling his face toward her, she said to Lin that at least dogs do not lie. Her father did not fully understand what she meant with those words, but he was already tired of dealing with everything and simply told Chenmo to do as she wished. The couple went to the girl's room. Thanks to Lin asking the maid Jia Rai to call Chenmo, she had been able to tell everything to her father, so she allowed the young man to stay in her room, though she called him a treacherous villain. Lin began defending himself, saying that he only wanted to avoid misunderstandings about the marriage, and he simply could not take his eyes off his wife. But then he became cautious and asked why the girl had activated her spiritual power. Chen Mo approached the hero, who was already quite frightened. She shouted at him not to pretend because she knew what a cunning man he really was. Lin Chu begged her not to come closer since he did not understand her intentions. The girl smiled maliciously and asked about the wedding night. She demanded to know what had really happened to him that night. And then, dear YouTube viewer, she asked if you had remembered to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. If not, now was the time to do it. Do it, and she would dream of you tonight and do anything you told her to. She immediately suggested that Lin look down, so he would understand what would happen if he did not tell her the whole truth. At that moment, his memories would not help him escape the situation. And indeed, in this world, power decided everything. Lin could not tell the girl about all the memories, but he also could not afford to confuse her further. The hero began explaining that when he came home, he encountered a strange woman with white hair. Chenmo was not surprised, believing that this was her husband's lover. Lin started shouting that he did not even know who the woman was or why she had kissed him at that moment. In general, he was offended by the fact that Chenmo constantly accused him of a betrayal that had never existed. The girl then brought up what had happened 3 years ago. Hotel Long Room 466. She claimed she had seen Lin Chu having fun there with 4 escorts. She asked him what he had been doing for the last 3 years. Perhaps he had been learning a new language. It was difficult and painful for her to recall all those events. Lin was shocked, because it was not as though he had been cheating on her. In fact, he had never even set foot inside Hotel Long. But Chenmo was convinced she was right, because she had seen everything with her own eyes. Then Sha Rei brought a whole mountain of dirty laundry into the room. The girls told Lin that from now on he would be responsible for all the household chores. The young man was irritated, but he agreed anyway, if only to avoid being thrown out onto the street. Thanks to his memories, he thought he could crush everyone with his business skills, but how hard could doing laundry be? Lin Chu had never done it before. Just as he finished and felt relieved that the work was over, a truck full of dirty clothes arrived. The massive pile fell right on top of him. The maid scolded him, saying Lian was working too quickly, so she decided to give him even more dirty laundry. There was also plenty of work in the kitchen. Lian skillfully sliced sausages into pieces as thin as possible, but Shari did not like it. She said the slices were too thin. The hero grew furious that such a shameless girl dared to order him around. After the kitchen, another load of dirty clothes awaited him. He could not understand how so many things had piled up there. But when he passed by Chanmo's father's room, he overheard their conversation. Their casino in Las Vegas had gone 10 million into debt because of counterfeit money. The man scolded his daughter because she had been the one to recommend that manager. The girl said she would handle everything herself since it truly was her mistake. She would not simply abandon those who had attacked the Chen family. Her father was very angry and shouted that 10 million would not just fall from the sky. During this conversation, Lin Chu stood outside the door and listened the entire time. Among his many borrowed memories was that of a forgery expert. Why was he wasting time here when there were so many ways to make money with counterfeit bills? Warehouse Shendia. Lin Chu decided to use the Chen family for his dirty deeds. He decided to claim all the knowledge of nearly 100,000 people to show the Chen family who was truly the boss. A dark website was launched. Lin found an advertisement for money printing machines. That was exactly what he needed. The only thing left was to figure out how to get his hands on the goods. He should have created a solid alter ego to keep his true identity a secret. It was decided that he would use the knowledge of a legendary makeup artist to disguise himself. His new appearance looked quite elegant. Lin Chu arrived at the location and asked a local where he could collect the goods. The man replied that he should go inside and find them himself. The hero found what he was looking for. The money printing machine was in good condition. The man said they had agreed on an amount of 5 million and demanded the money. Lin replied with a smile that he had only brought a few dollars with him, but the man did not like such jokes. He grabbed Lin by the clothes and began interrogating him. Lin broke through his aggression by showing him a banknote that he had personally created. The note was incredibly realistic. The man had never seen money like that before. Lin said that the counterfeit money the man was making was complete trash compared to his own work. The man agreed and asked what Lin could offer him. Lin asked for 2 hours. He did not need more. The man agreed, curious to see what this guy was capable of. While the man dozed off, Lin Chu finished all his work and went to wake him. The man was startled in his sleep and almost fell off the bed. On the table lay a mountain of money impossible to distinguish from real notes. The man was shocked to see how Lin had managed to do all that in just one night. He could not believe what he was seeing and wanted to check, suspecting the money might be poor quality, but his fears were in vain. The bills looked perfect. His legs gave out, and he collapsed to the ground. He could not understand how it was possible that the counterfeits were indistinguishable from the originals. The man asked the hero's name. Lin Chu introduced himself as Censure Wei, a member of a secret organization involved in the production of counterfeit notes. Woody, one of the brothers, told the other that someone wanted to interfere with their business. Vamian, the second brother, was also involved in counterfeiting. The brothers assumed their rival Yin Chuo had returned, though rumor had it he had gone bankrupt long ago. But they had also heard whispers that he had made a deal with a certain Master Wei the previous night. They realized that Master Wei must have been the creator of such flawless money. Woody shouted to his brother to quickly find Master Wei and buy him out. Money was no problem. It turned out that Viamin had already tried this, but Master Wei had refused. The master was willing to cooperate only on equal terms. The brothers kidnapped Lin disguised as Master Wei and tried to pressure him into agreeing to work with them. From the starting point to this place, Lin calculated that they had taken 6 turns, judging by speed and time. After analyzing everything, he realized they were in an abandoned workshop somewhere on the outskirts of Longan. One of the brothers ordered Lin to give his name. The man repeated the question when Lin did not immediately answer. Lin also knew that the printing machines had been transferred here. After freeing his hands, Lin replied that his name was Wei Chanhua. The man was intrigued and asked why he needed all this, again pressing him to work for them. The man was shocked to see Lin had managed to free himself, but the hero replied that he did not work for others and was only willing to cooperate as equals. Then, one of the brothers grabbed Lin by the clothes and began threatening him, saying that he was in no position to negotiate. He shouted that they could kill Lin right there and no one would ever know. "But if you kill me now, you'll lose more than just a partner," Lin replied. He began talking about missed opportunities to fulfill their deepest dreams, which left the man ashamed. Lin declared that he wanted to ensure a future where no fake bills existed, because everyone would be using only his own counterfeits, which looked more real than the originals. He had the technology and the brothers had the equipment and materials. If they cooperated, Lin promised to produce 100 million counterfeit yens every single day. The brothers were alarmed by this claim. It was astonishing to hear since the combined capacity of all the machines now was only about 10 million per day. To confirm his words, Liam demanded 51% of the deal. The brothers grew angry at the proposal, as it seemed like they would be working for Liam rather than the other way around, but they agreed on the condition that the hero allowed them to be present during the production process. The deal was concluded successfully. However, the brothers' plan was to steal the technology and get rid of Lean, while Lean's own plan was to take the 10 million and also get rid of the brothers. Back at the Chen household, the young Chen Mo was discussing the family's financial situation with her maid. The girl was considering various options for how she could earn a great deal of money in the near future. Just then, a man entered the room apologizing. It was none other than Lin Jian's former boss who had come there. Supposedly to help Chen Mo, the girl asked if he did not hate her because she had recently fired Jin. The man laughed and said there was no resentment. The only reason he had started working at the Shen Group was to follow Chen. He promised the girl 10 million to cover the casino's losses, but his condition was that she divorce that scoundrel Lin Chu. At the same time, he reminded her of Lin's previous incident at the hotel. Lin grew angry because this man was making him look like a scoundrel right in front of her, even though he himself did not know anything about that hotel. The girl rudely rejected Jin and added that he should not consider himself such an important person. Immediately, Lin began pushing him in the back with a mop, calling him a stinking cockroach. He shoved the man closer and closer to the door. Jin was a little surprised, and at the same time irritated, to see his former employee. Lin told him not to interfere in their matters and added that perhaps money would simply fall from the sky soon. Jin could not understand what the hero was talking about or what other money he needed. A moment later, a suitcase flew straight into Jin's face, knocking him to the ground. The man who threw the suitcase said that the money had been delivered by order of Mr. Wei, 10 million sent to Madame Chen Mo. The girl did not understand who Mr. Wei was or why he should send her money. The man explained that Mr. Wei sent the money in order to earn her trust. He added that if she wanted to meet him, she should go to the Dorset Hotel at 3 p.m., room 466. Jin, lying on the floor, did not understand why the meeting with the girl had been arranged in that particular room. And Lin, looking at Jin sprawled on the ground, thought that he was clearly involved in all these deceptive events. Chen arrived at the hotel at the appointed time to meet Mr. Wei. The girl looked stunning as always, but now she seemed a little thoughtful. Two men were watching her from a car, Jen and his assistant. He was wondering who could have stolen his woman. Chen Mo stood in front of the hotel room she needed and was about to enter. She was very curious to know the purpose of this meeting. Inside, Luncher was once again surrounded by several half-naked girls. One of them tried to feed him grapes. Chen Mo was furious. She could not believe what she was seeing, for it was exactly the same scene as 3 years ago. The young man exclaimed and began calling out to her, insisting it was all just a misunderstanding. Chen began smashing everything in sight and shouted, "What kind of misunderstanding is this man talking about?" Then the man, who looked exactly like Luncher, ripped off his mask and told her he was not who she thought he was. The TV switched on and Mr. Wei appeared, broadcasting from there. He explained that this was a technique of transfiguration, covering one's face with another aura. He also revealed that 3 years ago Lin had not been in that place at all. It had been an impostor. That person had intended to ruin their relationship. Shen finally understood and grew very anxious, but when she regained her composure, she asked why he had told her all this and why he had sent her the money. He could not share any information that might reveal his true identity, so Mr. Wang TV explained that the money was simply repayment of a debt owed to Lin. The girl was curious about who could have set up her fiancé in such a way 3 years ago, but suddenly Jin burst into the room shouting and demanding to meet Mr. Wei. Then the TV answered the girl's question, revealing that the one responsible 3 years ago had been none other than Mr. Jin Ying. Jin did not understand why there were so many people in the room or what was happening. He began shouting at the top of his lungs again, screaming that Chen Mo was his woman and that he would not let her waver because of a bribe. But the only response he received was a reminder that he seemed to have forgotten the girl was already married. Mr. Wei added that the couple had separated at that time precisely because of Mr. Jin's antics. A moment later, an escort ran up to Jin asking why he had not called for her help sooner. The indignant man tried to pretend he did not know who she was and attempted to back away, but the girl was insistent, speaking of how Jin had been her VIP guest 3 years ago. Mr. Wei, however, had hacked into the hotel's records and discovered exactly who had been there with Jin Ying 3 years earlier. He intended to explain everything to Lady Chin Mao, but she did not even want to hear his excuses. The girl simply asked for Mr. Wei's contact information so she could return the money to him later. To this the gentleman replied that there was no need, he only asked that she treat her husband with more kindness. Then the TV shut off immediately. Linchu was happy that the day had finally ended, and that he could once again become Mr. Wei to meet his partners. But at the door he found Chen Mo, who looked very happy to see him. She told him that now he no longer needed to sleep in the warehouse, and they could spend the night together in the same room. Lane noticed Xiaorui, who was talking to someone on the phone, hiding in the bushes. Using the memory of a lip-reading expert, he understood that she was warning someone to stay away from microcredit organizations. She promised to find 200,000 jeans for her brother. Lane smiled, thinking it strange that she had gotten herself into such a situation. Compared to this, Savile fluorine was far more potent. A man Lin already knew, someone Wei had worked with, entered and asked why he had been called. To begin with, Lin wanted 200,000 yens deposited into his account. The man said that Wei was a true philanthropist. But Mr. Wei did not ask for comments. He only wanted things done faster. This was not the most secretive organization. Mr. Wei sat at the table with his partner. One of the brothers praised him for being able to produce 100 million counterfeit bills in such a short time. Thanks to him, the brothers had gained a lot of experience and had also come out victorious, receiving their 51%. It was mutual benefit, the man replied, but Lin realized they wanted to poison him through his drink, saying it was far too obvious of them. The brothers, however, did not understand what Mr. Wei was talking about. He told them to stop pretending to be good guys, because he knew they were the real sharks of the underworld. Suddenly men in black stormed into the room, all standing in front of Mr. Wei as if waiting for an order. Then one of the brothers said it was time to get rid of Mr. Wei. Strangely, the hero asked if they wanted to finish their lunch first, as he did not want all that food to go to waste. The men could not understand why he was so calm. Apparently they thought he did not realize the situation he was in. He asked again if this was really the end for him. The man confirmed and added that all exits were blocked, that there was nowhere for him to run. But did they really think the hero had not foreseen this situation? He had no intention of giving up. He had a very specific plan. His partner had no idea what Mr. Wei was doing. It was a trap. Somehow carbon dioxide began to fill the entire space. Knowledge is the most powerful weapon. Yesterday, Mr. Wei had agreed to everything because he had expected a setup from the brothers. He had asked someone to pump carbon dioxide into the ventilation system so he could deal with his false partners at any moment. The outcome of today's meeting was already in Mr. Wei's hands. One of the men lying on the ground shouted that there was a very serious figure above them, someone who controlled all the underground of Tokyo. He threatened to report everything to management, but Wei simply pressed his face to the ground with his foot. The man asked what Wei would do with all that money if he would just keep it for himself, but Lin replied that he did not need the money as he could earn it on his own through honest work. The young man flicked open a lighter he held in his hand. He said he had no use for the money. None of the counterfeit notes he had produced had entered circulation yet. The man was horrified when he realized that Lun had thrown the lighter toward the pile of money. It was his warning to show the scoundrels their place. Len Shu, disguised as Mr. Wei, left the building. The car took Len directly back to the Chen family home. The driver wondered who this mysterious Mr. Wei really was, but the young man cut him off, asking no further questions. A maid was waiting for him at the corner. She grabbed his hand with a sudden movement and asked why he had taken so long today. Lin was confused, but the girl did not want to hear excuses. She had a request. She had heard from her mistress that Lin and Mr. Wei were close friends and she wanted to know where he was now so that she could speak to him personally. But then the man who had given Lin a ride arrived and addressed him as Mr. Wei, handing him the mask he had forgotten in the car. Everyone looked stunned, especially Shirei. The girl screamed when she realized that Lian and Mr. Wei were the same person. She could not understand and decided to ask again why the man had called Lian Mr. Wei. Lian tried to come up with an excuse, saying the man must have mistaken him for someone else. But the driver was no fool and decided to play along, saying he had really made a mistake and asked where he could find Mr. Wei. Xia Rei shouted that the man was holding Mr. Wei's mask, and Lady Chen Mo had already told her about it. The girl assumed Lin was trying to hit on her mistress, and was pretending to be Mr. Wei, so she wanted to report him immediately. But the young man decided to reveal all his cards and declared that he was Mr. Wei himself. The girl burst out laughing in his face. How could he put himself on the same level as such a great man? Lin asked if she wanted to thank Mr. Wei for helping to pay off her younger brother's debts. Furious, she demanded to know how he could possibly know about that. Lin was offended by the tone with which Yashi Rei spoke to him. He grabbed the girl by the hand. He dragged her along. Opening the trunk of the car, he asked if she knew people like Wen and Wing, who were involved in the casino incident. The man said they were extortionists, and ordered Chen Mo to be delivered, but the girl still did not want to believe Ling's words, and ran to tell everything to her mistress. Lin stopped her abruptly, grabbing her by the shoulder. He said he could not just stand by while there was a risk of someone exposing his alter ego. He asked Incha to take out his phone to record something. The man obeyed and quickly prepared the phone's camera. Xia Rei had no time to recover her senses and understand what Lian had planned when he suddenly touched her lips with his. The photo was taken so he could use it to manipulate the girl, otherwise he would send it to Chen Mo. Moreover, the hero added that it was she who had seduced him by showing him a photograph. Meanwhile, in Chen Mo's room, the girl sat on the bed, puzzled about where Lin Shu had disappeared to for so long. In the morning, she found her husband sleeping deeply. She asked him where he had been yesterday for so long. Chen Mo pressed her foot against his face, saying that she had waited for him a long time last night, and once again asked her question. What had Lin been doing yesterday? The hero began to make excuses, saying the previous day had been hard and that cleaning had demanded a lot of strength and energy from him. Chen Mo called loudly for the maid, and a moment later a sad-looking Shari appeared at their door. The lady asked the girl if she knew where Lian had been the previous night, but Shari answered that she had overburdened the young man with work so he would not get lazy. Chen Mo then said that Lian would no longer have to do the household chores he had done before. She handed him a card and asked him to buy a present for her father's birthday, which would be in 3 days. The young man refused, objecting to Chen Mo's money, saying he could buy the gift for his father-in-law with his own means. Shakri grew even sadder and asked if there were any other questions for her since she was about to leave them. At that exact moment, Lian said it was time for him to return to his chores. Chen Mo found this a little strange, but decided to ignore it. Lian ran out of the room after the maid and called out to her. He thanked her for covering for him in front of his wife, but the girl began to cry and said it was all his fault. After all, in all the years they had grown up together, this was the first time Shirei had deceived Chen Mo so blatantly. Lun Chu began to comfort the crying girl, asking her to calm down. Grabbing her by the shoulders, he told her it was a lie for the greater good, since he could not reveal his secret to his wife yet. His reputation in the Chen family could only change for the better, not for the worse. The man was certain no one would believe him if he told the truth, that the money was his. Lun asked for the girl's support, and made her promise that no one else should ever know about it. The girl looked at him with puppy eyes and did not know how to respond. She also apologized for the poor communication at the start, since she had not known Liam was doing all of this for Chen Mo's sake. Lian decided to change the subject and asked if she knew what he could give his father-in-law for his birthday. Xia Rei began listing the things he liked: antiques, calligraphy, painting, and in recent years a deep interest in investments. She also added that Chen Mo's father absolutely adored the actress Cheng Jin, who was very popular. The young man thought he had heard that name somewhere before, and at that moment the maid showed him her picture on her phone. Then the hero began to wonder if she was not his lover from a past life, when he was a director. An image flashed before his eyes, of them lying together on a beach. He remembered eating noodles with her for lunch. He remembered their first time together. Yes, His memories were confirmed. But the actress had become far more popular than he had ever expected. Suddenly Lin grabbed the girl's hand and asked what they were waiting for. He suggested they hurry back home to meet that very same actress. They approached the Cheng family mansion, where the actress lived. The girl asked if this was really the same house, and wondered why he had brought her there. Lin activated the memory of a cultivator and asked for her help, since she too was a cultivator. The man had learned that the stages of cultivation were divided into chi condensation, foundation establishment, core formation, soul birth, divine path, synthesis, immortality, and others. The hero knew that Chen Mo and Zhao were in the foundation establishment stage. The girl explained that she was at the 7th stage, while Chen Mo was only at the 3rd, which meant Chen Mo was weaker. The hero typed in the password to enter the house. The girl was shocked to see that he knew the code. He had truly been there before. Lin had not only been here, he had even lived here. He uploaded the memory of director Youngzi, the actress's lover. A wealthy man, wealthy and influential. Jing Ming wanted to invest in the director's next film, which he agreed to. One day, the director discovered that this same Jing Ming was forcing the actress to sleep with him. He grew furious and tried to fight the impostor, but Jing Ming secretly pushed him off the rooftop. The most interesting part was that after the director's death, his film took off and the actress became extremely popular. Lin and Sha were inside the Cheng mansion. Lin tried to use his abilities to sense where the actress was, but she herself came out of the room asking who they were and what they were doing there. The hero simply asked her to listen to him. And nothing more. He began to tell the girl that he was Zhang Zid. Naturally, the actress did not believe him and grew angry that he would dare to joke about something so serious. Sakurio warned him that Sheng was in the core formation stage and that Lin should be careful. Then Lin, disguised as Wei, began recounting details that deeply troubled the actress in an attempt to convince her. The girl replied that such things could be easily discovered and so she would not believe him. Lin decided to give other details, telling her that she had a mole on her left breast and that her ear was the most sensitive part of her body. The girl paused, realizing that the man before her might truly be Zhang Zhe. Lin explained that his soul had been reborn into this body the moment he saw her again. The actress threw herself into his arms. She had missed her lover all this time. She asked why he had taken his own life back then, but Lin revealed the secret. He had been murdered by Zhang Ming. As the conversation continued, he told her that now he had returned and was ready to take revenge. She grew a little sad because the young man was lying. He was not a director, much less the actress's true love. But Ling explained that he was not lying in his mind. He carried the memories of that director and thousands of other people. His main objective was to extort the wealthiest families of Longshen. Everyone knew the 4 great families, Chen, Jing, Lo, and Zhou, but the first that interested him was the Jing family. For that he needed Jieche's help, so that no one in the Chen household would suspect that Lin was really Mr. Wei. But why should a girl like her help him? Lin explained that it was all for Chen Mao. The girl agreed to help, but with one condition. From now on she would always stay close to Lin so that he would not do anything to hurt Chen Mao's feelings. At the Jing family estate, the patriarch was speaking about how he did not know who Mr. Wei was. Then Jing stormed into the room demanding money from his father to buy a gift for his future father-in-law. The father was displeased with this behavior, especially since he knew perfectly well that his son was not the Chen family's son-in-law. Jing shouted that he loved Chen Mo deeply, but his father did not want to hear it and simply handed him a bank card. The man apologized to the girl and assured her that he was not involved in the destruction of the counterfeit money factory. However, he was willing to help her find Mr. Wei's whereabouts, and the girl thanked him for his time. Jingjing interrupted, claiming that he personally knew Mr. Wei. The girl immediately grabbed her katana and ordered him to take her to Wei quickly, if he was not lying. Jingjing tried to justify himself, saying that he did not know where Wei was but insisted that he knew him personally, and that they were good friends. The girl asked who exactly this Mr. Wei was. To this, Jingjing replied that he was none other than Lin Shu, the Qin family's son-in-law. Lin's body carried immense energy, but for some reason it was all fused together into one. Shakri entered the room and asked if the gift for his father-in-law was ready, but the hero replied that whatever he gave would be nothing but trash to the Chen family. The girl grew angry, reminding him that he had made a promise to her. While he had been in a coma, Chen Mo was the only one who took care of him. Even when Shakri offered to help, Chen Mo refused, insisting she alone was responsible for Lin. Talai felt upset at this, but Lin calmed the girl slightly, assuring her that he had indeed prepared something. The next day the palace was filled with guests for the celebration. Each gift presented cost an enormous amount of money. One of the guests suggested showing the children the legendary elixir of youth. Tisui was the name used for the ruler of the year in ancient China, but Father Chen grew cautious upon hearing his son-in-law laugh. Lan laughed and pointed, saying it was nothing but a piece of junk. The man grabbed Len by the shirt and grew aggressive, thinking his words were directed at him. Lan could not stop laughing, saying it was nothing more than a piece of silicone, not a statue. The man shouted at Chen Mo to calm her husband down. Lin kept laughing and said he could make the same statue himself. All he needed was a cake knife. The hero quickly began carving something into the statue. If we remove the outer layer, Lin said, this is what we'll find. Taking a step to the side, the young man revealed to everyone what was truly hidden beneath the statue. All the guests in the palace began to laugh, but the discussion was interrupted by the owner of the palace, who said that their main problem now was the Jing family. He explained that the family had profited greatly from Cheng Jing's success in the film industry, so he wanted someone to carry out one of his tasks. The man wanted the actress Cheng Jing to join their family, ensuring continued success in the film industry. Moreover, whoever completed the task would become the head of the headquarters in that sector. Everyone began whispering that Cheng Jing already had a contract with the Jing family and most likely would not be able to break it, but Lin was confident the task was simple and that he and his wife could certainly accomplish it. The guests murmured among themselves, thinking the man was bluffing. After all, where could he possibly have any connection with Cheng Jing? Even Chen Mo did not quite understand his actions, but Lin reassured her. The man with whom they had recently clashed suggested calling the actress immediately. If she did not answer, Lian would have to kneel and apologize. If the opposite happened, then that man would kneel and ask for forgiveness. The hero agreed, but said he would call Cheng Jin from Chen Mo's phone. The man shouted that she would never answer him in her life. Besides, the girl was live streaming at that very moment. Indeed, Cheng Jin was broadcasting, but her stream was interrupted by a phone call. She answered quickly and asked who was calling her. Lin handed the phone to his wife and told her to invite Cheng Jin to join the Chen family. Chen Mo introduced herself and repeated everything Lin Shu had told her. The actress paused for a moment, then gladly agreed. Everyone was shocked by the turn of events, and Lin reminded them of the agreement, because Lin had also hypnotized her back when he and she were in her house. He had already told her she would receive a call and must agree to everything. Lin felt satisfied with himself and once again reminded the man of their deal to kneel and apologize. The man could not believe he had lost a bet to such a useless fellow, but Mr. Chen immediately helped him fulfill his duty by striking his knees with an electric shock. He reminded him that one must always answer for his words. From that day forward, Chen Mo would be responsible for the film industry department. At the Chen family estate, the same girl who had spoken with the master of the Jing household was now watching the hero from behind the bushes. She could not understand how this was possible, and assumed the man was a celestial being. After all, she could see how many souls were within him, and it was astonishing that he had not gone insane. Even more surprising was how he had achieved absolute harmony between all those souls. The girl realized that Lian was dangerous and wanted to strike first, but suddenly she was thrown a great distance by an unknown shockwave. It was a girl, a blonde. She clearly possessed a movement technique. She was Lian's blonde lover from his past life. After that, she used the charm technique and began to speak. She said she would not allow anyone to kill Lin because he was the reincarnation of the love of her life, who had lived 1,000 years ago. The pink-haired girl rudely asked who she was and whether she was the one who had given Lin so many souls. The blonde replied that she had only helped him remember all his past lives so that he would not forget her. It was the use of aura to awaken memories, one of the oldest summoning techniques. The blonde began flying back and forth and suddenly grabbed her opponent's face. This enraged the pink-haired girl, who decided it was time to end this circus. Meanwhile, Lin finally organized the memories of 10,000 souls, which in fact did not take long. A pleasant female voice called out to him from behind. It was Chenmo. She said she admired his gesture yesterday. Lin joked, saying that everything depended on Mr. Wei and that he was only following instructions. Chenmo took her husband's hands and asked him a question. She wanted to know how Lin Xiu had made contact with Mr. Wei. The hero replied that he was an old friend who wanted to help improve Lin's relationship with her. The girl did not quite understand what he meant by improving their relationship, but Lin quickly added that he did not know any details and that she should ask Mr. Wei personally. The girl admitted that she wanted to ask her father to appoint Lin as her representative at the film industry headquarters. The hero joked again, saying there was no need for that because he was nothing but a lazy man. Lin added that she should not worry so much about him, as it would ruin her reputation in the Chen family. Chenmo hugged her husband and felt guilty toward him. She said she was happy to feel his care, even though she had not treated him very well over the past 3 years. But Lin thought that being a representative was not enough for him. He wanted to seize control of the entire Chen family. Not far from the couple, the fight between the girls continued. The blonde proved to be very strong, and then the pink-haired girl decided to give up, saying she was not the right opponent. The result of the duel was predetermined. The blonde was ready to lift the spell as long as no more attempts were made to kill Lin Xiu. The pink-haired girl had no real plans to kill Lin, but suddenly she changed her mind and refused to back down. All of a sudden, Lin and Chenmo noticed someone nearby and turned around. The girl suddenly ran toward Lin, shouting that he was her brother and that she had finally found him. She asked if he had forgotten his little sister from Japan, but Lin had no idea what was going on. As she came closer, she whispered in his ear that she knew everything and that it would be better if he played along. Lin was a bit confused, but still went along with the act, pretending to be happy to see his fake sister. The girl pulled Lin with her, saying they had something to talk about since it had been so long. Sitting on the sofa, the girl introduced herself. Her name was Ryoko. Lin remembered that name, but he couldn't figure out from where. He assumed she might be the one behind the Wu brothers. Ryoko said she had wanted to kill him, but her plans had changed since she recently met a white-haired girl. Lin was surprised that she was here again, and Ryoko invited him to meet her, but then she added that although she could not kill him, she had no problem crippling him. She offered to test the strength of his 10,000 souls. After all, they were useless without spiritual energy. But things did not go as planned. Ryoko could not harm Lin at all. He looked at her with a smile. A purple sphere appeared behind his back, carrying the memory of the chemist. The room filled with purple smoke, and the girl lost her sense of space. Lin then attacked Ryoko from behind. Unfortunately, the girl replied that it was a pathetic attempt to trick her and that things were not so simple. With an ironic smile, she told Lin that from now on he was her older brother and should do whatever she wanted. Lin began thinking of ways to kill her. Ryoko released Lin's neck, and he fell to the ground. The girl laughed and said he was very boring. But Lin realized something. He began using the memory of the Poison King. The hero politely asked permission to peel fruit for his sister. He handed her a tangerine and offered her a piece. Ryoko started to lift the slice to her mouth. Lin watched nervously. He had to make sure the girl ate the poison. But Ryoko looked at him and told Lin not to think she was a fool. He had to act quickly. He couldn't waste a second. The memory of the sportsman activated. Ryoko jumped very high and for a long time because Lin's anger was leaking and he could not hide his emotions. Still, the hero told the girl to be quiet and eat the fruit he had given her. Ryoko was outraged by his behavior, but Lin clarified that it was only a poison pill. Because of this poison, she should lose the ability to use her spiritual power and her body would become paralyzed. Lin was happy that his plan had worked. Ryoko, however, told him not to celebrate too soon because his poison would not harm her. She planned to return to Tokyo with Lin and suck the poison out of his soul. Lin believed she was bluffing and that the poison was not so useless. She would not be able to execute her plan. Ryoko was determined and said she would carry out her plan no matter what. But unexpectedly the hero placed his hand on Ryoko's shoulder and offered to make a deal. Ryoko was slightly startled by this proposal. The deal was that Leon would give her the antidote, and in return she would become his personal bodyguard. But Ryoko ignored the offer, telling Leon not to provoke her. Then the hero added that, in addition to the antidote, he would also give her money, and soon she would be considered the companion of Longchen's master. The girl found this amusing. She did not believe Leon would ever become the richest man and told him to stop dreaming. But with the souls of 10,000 people, Lin Chu believed he could put the world at his feet. The girl was still surprised that the hero was alive at all, carrying so many memories. Lin said that although he could not cultivate, his strength lay in his memories. He was already married to Chen Mo and just yesterday had convinced Chen Jing to join the Chen family. The girl finally agreed to Leon's deal, but first, she demanded to take the antidote. The man handed her a pill that would only partially remove the poison. For complete purification, Ryoko would have to obey the hero completely. This pill was like another poison. Leon told her she had the choice of whether or not to take it, but he added that the pill had a side effect. It was also a powerful aphrodisiac. Luckily, that was just a joke. Meanwhile, the office was busy organizing paperwork. One of the workers said he took care of all matters related to the film industry, and Chen Mo would understand that he held no real power. It was the same man who had been humiliated before. Now he stood against Chen Mo. The actress was struck hard in the face after agreeing to join the Chen family. The man was furious that the girl had broken the contract. Kneeling, the actress said that he had forced her into it. The man then realized he could not avoid conflict with the mysterious Mr. Wei. He called someone and ordered them to find Mr. Wei immediately. He promised 1 billion won for his head, alive or dead. The actress slowly walked down the long corridor toward the meeting. The guards whispered that she was a true star. She was very beautiful. The girl opened the door to the room where Mr. Wei was supposed to be waiting for her. He immediately asked why she had asked to meet him. The girl instantly threw herself into his arms, calling him her dear Jiangje. Mr. Wei had a soul, but he was not the beloved director the actress thought he was. Still, she didn't care. She said she wanted to return the favor. Lane asked several times what the girl wanted from him and why she had brought him there. The actress explained that there was a $1 billion bounty on Mr. Wei's head, and that she wanted to hide him to keep him safe. Lin laughed, thinking she was insane. He also despised the actress after she had agreed to Mr. Wei's terms. Lin promised the girl he would handle everything in the best way possible. The actress became very anxious and begged him to simply avoid Mr. Wei, but then her eyes lit up, and she suggested killing the man before he could reach Lin. The young man was a little surprised by her reaction. The actress promised to help him with this matter. She said she would try to make Mr. Wei vulnerable to attack, but suddenly Lin pushed her away and asked if this was the same way she had made a pact with Jing Ming to kill Jiang Jie. The actress looked at the hero completely shocked. Mr. Wei reminded her that he carried the soul of Jiang Jie and therefore had all his memories. The actress grew furious, because Jiang Jie had been poor, and ever since she met Jiang Ming, they had been secretly flirting. Later they had decided together to get rid of Jiang Jie. Not only had the actress successfully hidden the truth about her past with Jiang Jie, but she had also used his death to her advantage. Now she wanted to repeat the same trick and still come out victorious. Lin was not as stupid as she thought, but he warned that her cleverness would become her downfall. The actress attacked, claiming that Lian had no strength and that she would not miss the chance to earn $1 billion for his head. The man looked at her calmly and told her, just as calmly, to begin her attack. The girl prepared to send him to hell, but something went wrong. There was another person in the room, Ryoko, who was protecting the protagonist. The actress was stunned to see that Ryoko was in the soul birth stage. Lin laughed, saying Ryoko had reacted very quickly. She probably did not want her brother to die. The hero told the actress that he had long known her true nature, but he hadn't wanted to expose her in front of the maid. Then he added that she could tell Jing Ming that he had revealed the identity of Mr. Wei. The girl asked if he really wanted that, but Lin, looking straight into her eyes, said that Mr. Wei was none other than the eldest son of the Qin family. Mr. Wei was none other than Chen Shen, the very same eldest son of the Chen family with whom Lin had clashed during the birthday party. Chen Mo slowly walked down the corridor. The guards whispered about how beautiful she was and how suddenly she had become the head of the film industry division. She entered the office. The young woman greeted the man who was waiting there. He said he had been waiting for a meeting with Chen Mo for a long time. Chen Mo asked if he had prepared all the reports she had requested. The man confirmed, adding that the word of the Chen family was law for him, but then he smiled and added that the young master had asked him to inform her that despite his mistake he would resume his position as head of the film industry department. Chen Mo did not want to hear any more and asked him to leave. When she began reading the reports, young Chen Mo realized that something was wrong. These reports were fake, and all the power still belonged to Chen Chen. It was quite predictable, and the young woman reached into her bag to grab her phone. She dialed Mr. Wei's number and said hello. The gentleman greeted her as well. He said she had probably already guessed that the reports were false. Chen Mo was surprised. How did he know that? Could Mr. Wei have been following her? In fact, Mr. Wei continued, not only had she been given false reports, but the real ones had also been destroyed. What they didn't realize was that by the end of her father's birthday, Wei had already stolen all the information and saved it in the proper place. He wanted to share the correct reports with Chen Mo so that she could easily take over the department. The girl asked again who he was and why